Well, hello, I'm Corvette Hop. First of all, thank you for watching this channel. You know, we would not be so successful if it wasn't for people just like you watching this channel. Today we're going to do something a little different, in which we're going to work on a C3 Corvette, a 1969 model, in which we're going to replace the entire engine harness. With that, let's go ahead and get started and keep those cars on the road. One of the first things you want to do is go ahead and jack the car. Now, I always use the Rhino ramps, and then I reinforce that with jacks, and I also put stops in the back to prevent it from rolling. Hey, here's the thing, when working around aircraft and cars, always think safety first, because all you need is one time for something to go wrong, and then you're going to be in a bunch of trouble. Speaking of safety, because we're working around electricity, you always want to disconnect the battery. I always disconnect the negative battery cable. I'm going to go ahead and remove the air filter, the distributor cap. I'm just going to pull it back so that I can get to the wires for the windshield wiper motor right in this area right here. The engine wiring harness is actually accessible under the car. We'll go ahead and go under the car and look at that. And it's on the driver's side of the firewall. And here it is right here. Right there it is. And on the other side of that is, of course, the dash harness, and it connects directly to the fuse box of the dash harness. So if you were to reverse this and go on the other side into the cockpit area where the driver puts his foot, that's where the fuse box is. Of course, on this side is where the engine wire harness is, and the light harness, which is on the opposite side of the engine wiring harness. We're going to go ahead and remove that. Use a 3/8 socket to remove the wiring harness. There it is, removed. It does come apart in two halves. We'll go ahead and remove both halves. All right. This is the light harness portion right here, and this is the engine harness. There we go. Now it's in two halves. The washer connector. Disconnecting the wiper motor ground, and then the wiper motor connector, which is right here. You also need to disconnect the red and white wire from the windshield wiper motor. Also make sure you disconnect the wiper door limit switch. You will also need to remove the orange wire from the blower motor and the ground wire from the blower motor. Next, go ahead and move on to the starter solenoid. At the end of the engine harness, there are 4 other wires that need to be removed. There's a red wire on the starter solenoid, the Batt terminal, a purple wire on the S terminal of the starter solenoid, a yellow wire on the R terminal of the starter solenoid. There's also a ground wire on the starter motor mount. This is the old harness that I talked about. Notice the 3/8 inch size head for the bolt to remove the harness that I talked about. As you can see, this harness really needed to be replaced. Look at this wire showing. Once the wiring harness is out, it's easy to see why it needs to be replaced. Certain parts of it are worn, other parts of it are fused together, like in this illustration. Notice the wires, the bottom part, how they're fused together. Let's go ahead and do a quick review of this wiring harness before we install it
and all the wiring connections. We purchased this wiring harness through LectricLimited, part number VIG6900. You will notice the bulkhead at the end where it mounts to the firewall. You will also notice the red wire. The red wire connects to the horn relay. The blue wire, yellow wire, and green wire female connector mount to the windshield wiper motor. The brown connector, yellow and blue, mount to the windshield washer. The yellow, white, and red connector mount to the coil. However, on my car, I have HEI. I have a wire that mounts directly to the HEI for ignition power. The red and white wire female end is for the windshield wiper motor, and the black female end is for the windshield wiper motor ground. This connector, which has two red and white wires, connect to the windshield wiper limit switch. Both the orange wire and the black wire go to the blower motor system. I will not be using the orange wire because I have a vintage air system. However, I will use the black wire for ground. Let's go ahead and look at the last four wires on the engine wiring harness. The red wire goes to the Batt terminal of the starter solenoid. The purple wire goes to the S terminal of the starter solenoid, and then the yellow wire goes to the R terminal of the starter solenoid. The black wire simply goes to the starter motor mount bolt.
Okay, that's with the new wiring harness connected. Go ahead and tighten that 3/8 bolt. The red wire to the horn relay, in which it connects to this one right here in the back. Pretty much reversible how we removed everything. Okay, I simply fed the wiring harness up along the firewall to the back end here. This is the windshield wiper motor here. We'll go ahead and connect the windshield wiper motor, which is this red and white wire, which goes right here to this. And now we'll connect the water pump, which is a yellow and blue wire, which is right here. Now I put this connector on because I had to modify the wires coming out of the windshield wiper pump, so simply put in the blue one just like this, and the yellow one just like that. I'll in turn put some tape around that. We'll go ahead and connect the blue, green, and yellow wire for the windshield wiper motor. And that connects on the bottom side of the wiper motor. There we go. And then the ground wire, we need to connect the ground wire right here. And that connects right here. Let's see if you can see that. There we go. Right there. There we go. Now we will not connect the coil because I have an HEI and I have a positive wire going straight to the fuse box, so we will not need to connect this at all. We'll go ahead and just simply tape it off. Next we have the windshield wiper door limit switch. This double wire, red and white double wire here, and it simply just connects right here to the switch. Make sure it's all the way in and snug. Here we are on the starter solenoid. We're going to go ahead and connect the yellow wire to the R terminal of the starter solenoid, which is right here. The red wire goes right here, And the purple wire goes on the other side of the S portion of the starter solenoid. Okay, this is everything connected to the starter solenoid, with the yellow connected to the R terminal, the red connected to the positive, and the purple wire connected to the S terminal. Hey there, one thing to note, there is an orange wire at the end of the wiring harness for the blower motor. Mine is not connected in that way because I have vintage air, so I'm just going to wire tie it up, and just in case anybody wants to connect it up later on, go back to original, they can. I went ahead and wire tied everything up just to make it neat. Keep it away from the exhaust. Okay, we're finished now. One last thing is just to go around and check all wires for connections, make sure there are no loose wires or items not connected. We'll also start it up to see if the starter works. We'll also check the windshield wiper to make sure that works. Okay, I'm in the car. We'll go ahead and start it up and see if the windshield wipers work. Hey, everything works fine. Mission accomplished. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something. Keep those cars on the road.